Okay. The last session we discussed about what is the meaning of Oracle and application, and we discussed about what does that mean by Fusion. So how Oracle build these Fusion applications, and what is the meaning of cloud. If any company is going to use Oracle Fusion cloud applications, what are the different options are available? Those points we discussed. We have a SaaS, PaaS, IaaS. So with the SaaS and PaaS, we can get the applications, and these are the differences we discussed. If any client is going to use the Fusion applications with their own servers, that we call as on-premise. Okay, that is on-premise. When you talk about Fusion applications, most of the clients are going with a cloud only, that too SaaS subscription. In case of IaaS, we'll get only storage space, no applications you can get. So this is what, please don't touch the tools which are related to drawing and all. Please, you just attend the session, that is enough. Please. Here, why you are going and choosing the options and all? Please don't touch this drawing tools and all. Thank you. So these points we discussed in the last session. Okay, these points we discussed in the last session. In today's session, we'll talk about how you can get access to the instance. Okay, what we call as instance, how many we can get so that we can start working on the system. We'll discuss these points. Say, for example, you are working for one of the client and your client taken the SaaS or PaaS subscription. Now you have to get access to Fusion applications. If you want to get access to Fusion application, Oracle provides access to Fusion applications with the concept called as instance. Okay, Oracle will give the access to instance. So by default, we get access to 2 instances. As a part of implementation. So if your client is taking the Fusion application subscription from Oracle, you get 2 instances. One instance we can use for testing purpose. That instance we call as test instance. What we call as test instance. The other instance, what we get from Oracle, we use for the purpose of production. Production instance. When we start working for the implementation, initially we use only test instance. Within the test instance, we create everything and we show to the client, and the client may ask for some changes. We do the changes, we enter the sample data. This is how we can create invoices. This is how you can create suppliers. This is how you can create the payments. So everything we set up and we show to the client and we take their acceptance. So everything is fine. Finally, we'll move the same setups to production instance. Once we do the setups in the production, client will start using this production instance. Test instance only for a testing purpose. Production instance is the real instance which can be used by company to record their day-to-day business transactions. So we get 2 instances. One we can use for testing, one for production purpose. And if your client is PaaS customer, say your client taken the subscription for PaaS subscription, that means we have to do the customizations. Technical consultant should do the customizations. Customizations also you can do within the test instance. Test instance you can use for testing purpose. Mostly the test instance is used by functional consultants. So if required, the test instance can be used by technical consultants to do the customizations. First, the customizations need to be done in the test instance. After testing whether the customizations are working fine or not, those customizations can be moved to production instance. So by using the same test instance, we can do the testing being a functional consultant. Technical consultants can create new pages, new applications, new reports and integrations. All they can develop in this test instance and they can test. or else your client can take one more instance for the purpose of development purpose, for customization purpose. Okay, if you think you have many customizations, if you are going to do many customizations in the test instance, our testing may get disturbed. For that, you may plan to get one more instance from Oracle. When you take the Fusion application subscription from Oracle, by default, you get 2 instances. If you need additional instances, for that, Oracle will charge. So you can have one more instance for our development activities. The customizations you can call as development also. Okay, to perform any customizations, you may have one more instance for development purpose. So that we call as development instance. By default, 2 test and production. So if required, you can get development instance to do any kind of customizations. After doing all these developments, you create a new page or new report, do develop interface, and you did some changes. Those all developments also you'll move from development instance to production instance. Okay, everything we require in the production. The production is the one client will use. So whatever you test, whatever you develop, everything will move into production instance. As a part of real-time classes, you can understand all these points, what setups we do, how it works, what process we follow. There you can understand more detail level. Here, just try to understand. So what does it mean by instance? Instance is nothing but where you can find your applications. Okay, within the instance, you have your applications, your payable application, okay, and your receivables application. Sorry. Okay, or AP, yeah, all the applications you can find within the instance only. I think these are the different applications, and within the instance itself, you will have a database. Okay, in every instance, you'll have a database. One instance you can use for multiple countries. If client is doing the business in multiple countries, the one instance they can use for multiple countries, all the countries' data can be stored in the same database, in the same instance, and the applications you can use for multiple countries. So the meaning of instance is where you can have applications, the application data you can store in the database. And for every application, already we discussed, we can have a pages and reports to see the data. So this is all about instances which we see as a part of implementation. When we are when you are in the implementation project, so you could see test instance and production instance. Based on the purpose, we are naming this as a test and production. If at all client wants to get one more instance for their development activities for customizations, they can get development instance. If they have a development instance, test instance can be used by only functional consultants, and development instance can be used by only technical consultants. If there is no development instance, the same test instance can be used by functional consultants and technical consultants to perform any testing, to perform any customizations. Finally, the production instance can be used by client to record the transaction. In test instance, you can create anything and you can test anything. In the development instance also, you can create anything and you can test anything. It could be technical or functional, you can test everything. But in the production instance, you should not test anything. So as per their business, we have to do the setups. Then client will start entering the real transaction. No testing can be performed in the production instance. So apart from these instances, Oracle provides another instance. That instance you can call as vision instance. That you can call as vision instance. Okay, vision instance. Vision instance, Oracle provides for the consulting companies. Now take example, Wipro is consulting company. The product is owned by Oracle, and Wipro can do the Oracle Fusion implementation for the clients. That means Wipro is consulting partner with Oracle. Infosys is consulting partner with Oracle. And TCS is consulting partner. Genpact, you take any company, Accenture, these all are consulting partners to Oracle. So these companies can implement Oracle Fusion applications for any client. So mostly Oracle provides this Vision instance to consulting companies. They don't provide Vision instance to any client. Client can get this in test instance and two instances. They use one for testing, other one for development or production purpose. One for testing, one for production. If they require one more, they can use for development purpose. So what is the difference between these test, development, production instance and Vision instance? When you get any instance from Oracle as a client, those are fresh instances. There won't be any sample data. But when you talk about Vision instance, within the Vision instance, you can have a sample data. Okay, you can have a sample data. So if you go to Vision instance, you can find few invoices, few payments, suppliers, customers, receivables, sales invoices, receipts, assets, bank accounts, all the data you can find in the Vision instance. This Vision instance we can use for the purpose of learning or say training purposes. Okay, Oracle is providing the Vision instance for training purposes. They are providing the sample data also. If you want to verify something, how that can be created, you can just check by seeing the existing data. But in the test instance or development or production instances, there won't be any sample data when we get from the client. Once we get this instance, we do the setups and you may create the data as a sample data in the test instance. The development also, as per your development activities, customizations, you can do the setups and you can do the developments. The production instance, once we set up the production instance, client will use the production instance to enter the real-time data. So Vision instance, Oracle is providing for consulting companies to use this for training purposes internally within their organizations, and other instances can be provided to clients for their implementation activities or to use that instance after implementation, that is production instance. Now these you can call as instances or you can call these as environments also. Okay, simply you can call all these as instances. You can use the term called as instance or you can call it as environment. Okay, you can say test instance, development, production, Vision instance, or you can say test environment, development environment, production environment, Vision environment. Or you can call it as pod also, POD pod. We know iPod means lightweight. So since these instances are virtual instances, okay, so those are very light in terms of access. So these you can call as a pod, test pod, development pod, production pod, Vision pod. You can call with any name. Remember, you can call as instance or environment or pod. Mostly we call it as instance, and environment or pod also applicable to refer these instances. And why Oracle is giving the name as a Vision instance? We discussed there is sample data available in those in this instance. The sample data, what they are providing, they are giving the sample data by taking the company name as a Vision. Okay, they are taking the company name as Vision. So that is the reason they are giving instance name as a Vision instance. Vision instance means there will be sample data with the company called as Vision. So that is the meaning of instances. This is what you have to understand about instances. This we can call as the landscape of the instance. Ideally, how we can use it, how many instances, what purpose. So this is what we have to understand. Any questions here, please? Any questions to understand these points, please?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Sir, this Vision instance can be used for only for training purpose or learning purpose? I mean,
for training or learning, both are same. Training or learning.
Okay, apart from instance and production instance, we'll get this also.
We don't get. That's what we are discussing. So client can get only two instances.
Yes, yes, by default.
Yes, by default. One we use for testing purpose, one we use for production purpose.
Production. Yes.
If they want one more, they have to pay separately. They can get one more. They may use it for development purpose if the subscription is passed.
Yes.
The Vision Instance, Oracle is not providing for the clients. Okay, the Vision Instance they are providing for consulting companies who are implementing the clients for those companies they are providing. In that company, for the consultants, they may give training or internally they may use for some testing other purposes.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Got it.
So any other questions, please?
Testing sense will the data will store in the database or it will not connected to the database, sir? The test and production both will connect to the database.
In every instance, you can have a database. If you do anything, the data will be stored in the database only.
If you perform anything in the test instance, it will not, I mean, if it is saved or it will not save in the database.
It will be saved. Okay. Say how to create supplier. I want to test in the test instance. I'll create the supplier. When I create the supplier data need to be stored in the database. But that is not real data, testing data.
Okay.
Yeah. So in every instance, whatever you do, that should be stored in the database. Otherwise, it says you didn't create anything. Any other questions, please? And another point is, say you are going to involve in the implementation project, say project duration is, it could be 6 months or 8 months or 10 months or 1 year or multiple years also. It totally depends on who is the client, what business they are into, in how many locations they are doing the business in one country or multiple countries. In each country, how many locations they are doing the business, and which applications they are going to implement for their company, only financials or financials and SCM or financials, SCM, PPM, CRM, HCM. So based on the scope of which applications you are implementing, for how many countries you are implementing, their business process is very simple or complex. So these all will decide the project duration. So most of the implementation on an average, you can say 6 or 8 months. Okay. And many implementations you can see with more than 6 months also. That totally depends. You cannot say how much time it takes to complete the implementation for one client. You cannot give any straight answer. That depends. For some clients, it may be 6 months. For some clients, maybe 8 months or 10 months, 1 year. If you are doing the implementation for one of the client who has operations in 50 countries, it may take years of time. Okay, first they may implement for one country, later one more country, later they may start with the 2-3 countries at a time. So this is how we do the implementation phase by phase. First for one country, later one more country, or else at a time for few countries, later remaining countries. So if there's a global implementation, if you are doing implementation for multiple clients, multiple countries for the same client, that we call as global implementation. A global implementation takes time. If you are doing implementation for a specific country or just 2 countries or 3 countries, it won't take much time. If you take example, say implementation period is 6-10 months. I'm taking example. If the implementation period is 10 months, till 6 months or 6 to 7 months, we'll be working on the test instance only. We don't touch production instance. Okay. As per their business, what they are doing, what activities they are doing, everything we have to create in the test instance, and we have to test and we have to show to the client, they have to accept. Everything need to be finalized in the test instance, which are finalized in the test instance, the same we will move to production. So if implementation duration is 10 months, 6 to 7 months will be working on the test instance only. We will touch the production instance maybe after 6 or 7 months if duration is 10 months. That's how you could see the reality. And development instance also, whatever the developments need to be done. So we use the development instance initially, like once developments are done, those you can move to production instance. So this is a point we have to understand. So we can just play with the test instance, no issues. But when it comes to production, just we have to set up and they will start use. And after implementation also, we will continue with this test instance under development instances. Once implementation is done, client will start using the system. If they are facing some issues or anything, everything we have to test in this. Whatever the data we have in that production instance, we can copy the data to test instance so that any issues in the production instance, those can be verified in the test instance. Or any new developments, client is asking for new report after implementation. The technical consultant will create the new report in the development instance and they'll test if the report is working fine. They'll show to the clients, and if client is okay with that report can be moved to production instance. So along with this production instance, we will continue with these instances also after implementation. Okay, during the implementation, we use this test and development. After implementation also, we'll use this for testing purpose and development purpose if required. And this is the one which client will use as an ongoing process. So this is all about instances, what we have to understand. Now, remember this point, it's very important. In production instance, say you are working for support project. So you should not touch the production instance. Some clients will give the access to production instance to consultants. As a part of implementation, we will have access to all the instances. Okay, test, development, production, for all the instances we can have access. Once implementation is done, some clients allow us to connect to the production instance. Some clients doesn't allow us to connect to the production instance, because in production instance, they'll have their real-time business data, which is very sensitive data. So that is the reason few clients don't allow us to access production instance. A few clients, they'll give the access. Whatever it may be the scenario, they may allow, may not allow. One thing we should be very clear, you should not test anything in the production instance. You should not test anything. Okay. If any additional setups need to be done, you can do that. Okay. Say they are using Fusion instance for their business. They have 10 branches. You completed setups for 10 branches. They are recording the transaction, the 10 branches. They started one more branch. They may ask you to do the setups for one more branch. That setups you can do in the production instance, but you are not supposed to create any transactions in the production instance. Who are responsible, who are working in so-and-so department, who are into so-and-so process, those employees will create the transactions in the production instance. Anything you want to test, you can test in the test instance as a consultant. So this is what you have to understand. Going forward, we'll understand. So once we start doing the setups, these points will become more clear to us. So when we are part of implementation project, we get access to the instance. So there will be default user, which Oracle provides for every instance, that is FA admin. Okay, FA admin is the default user for all the instance which Oracle provides. FA stands for Fusion Applications. Okay, FA stands for Fusion Applications admin. This is the default user Oracle is providing. When we are working for any implementation, you may get access to FA admin user, or else you may get access to different user. Okay, they may give access to instance by creating one more any other new user also, but ultimately we get access to instance. They'll provide the user credentials. As a company, our client will receive the instance details. They'll provide instance URL for 2 instances, and they'll provide the login credentials. When we are working as a consultant, you can log into the instance with Oracle provided username, and you have to create your own user. Okay, as a part of implementation, when we get access to instances, our first activity is we have to create our own user. What purpose you are creating our own user? To perform the implementation, to do the implementation, to set up that instance ready so that client can use. For that purpose, we are going to create our own user. So what are the user you create in the fresh instance? Okay, remember the term. fresh instance, you can use another term called as blank instance also. Blank instance, fresh instance means without any sample data, whatever the instances we get from Oracle, those we can call as fresh instances or blank instances. Those instances for what purpose you want to use, accordingly you can classify them. You may use the fresh instance for testing and development for production. That's how you can classify. But instances what we get from Oracle, those are fresh, or you can say blank. Meaning is no sample data. But in the vision instance is not a fresh instance. Within the vision instance, you can see the sample data. This is what we have to understand. So when we are working as a consultant, when you get access to any instance, what is our first activity? We have to create our own user. The user, what we are creating, that user we call as implementation user, means you are going to work as implementation consultant. So implementation user we have to create. By using that user, you can do the implementation in any instance. So first we have to create implementation user. Implementation user is different from business user. The implementation user is different from business user. Other user is business user. Business user means, say, take example, there is a payables department. Okay, payables department. What payables department records? Payables department primarily they record purchase invoices. Purchase invoices, and they can record the payments. This is the responsibility of payables department. For payables department, Oracle is providing which application? Oracle Fusion Accounts Payable. This application can be used by payables department. By using Oracle Fusion Accounts Payable application, you can create the purchase invoices and you can process the payments. Now, there is one employee whose responsibility is creating purchase invoices. Okay, creating purchase invoices. If the employee is going to create the purchase invoices, for that employee, we have to create employee user. And we have to give the permission to create the purchase invoices. There is one more employee who is working in the payables department who has to create the payments. For that user also we create employee user, because they are employees in the organization. We create employee users and they can record the transactions in the payables application where they are responsible for. Okay, if they are responsible to create purchase invoice, they create. And if they are responsible to create payments, they create. Accordingly, we'll provide the access. As a consultant, which user, which employee required access to what activities, we have to give the access. That you can say we provision the access to employees. Now we are talking about implementation user. Once setups are ready, we will see how the employee users can be created to allow them to create the transactions. Implementation user perform the setups, they do the implementation. Employee users can record the transactions. Reality employee users we require in the production instance. Okay, in the production instance, we have to create the employee users, and so that they can record the transaction. The test instance also, you can create the employee users, but just for testing purpose. So this is the point you have to understand. So when you create implementation user, the implementation users should have a full privileges to the entire instance to do any activities as a consultant. So to allow this implementation user to perform any setups in any instance, we have to assign the roles. Okay, we have to assign the roles. That means we have to give the permissions to implementation consultant or implementation user for any sort of access. For that, we have to assign two roles to implementation user. The first role is application implementation consultant. Okay, this is one of the role. Another role is we have to assign role called as IT security manager. Okay, role is IT security manager. These two roles, okay, these two roles we have to assign to user. Okay, the two roles we have to assign to the user so that that user can work as a consultant with the full privileges. So why we have to assign application implementation consultant role? So if you are going to implement any application, you take any application. So to implement any application, what we required in the Fusion application already discussed. By using what you can, by using which application you can do the setups. Here we discussed by using Oracle Fusion FSM. Okay, FSM stands for Functional Setup Manager. You can do the setups. If you want to allow any consultant to do the setups, we have to assign application implementation consultant role. If you assign application implementation consultant role to any user, that user will get access to Oracle Fusion FSM. By using FSM, that user will be able to perform the setups. To allow the user to perform the setups, we have to assign application implementation consultant role. If you assign application implementation consultant role to any user, that user will get access to FSM. FSM stands for, already we discussed, Functional Setup Manager. Okay. So we have to assign application implementation consultant role to user. That user will get access to FSM. From FSM, that user will be able to perform the setups. FSM stands for Functional Setup Manager. What is the purpose of Functional Setup Manager? To perform the setups. Or you can say, by using Functional Setup Manager, you can do the implementation for any application. And IT Security Manager. Here we discussed. So Oracle Fusion IDM or OEM. What purpose we are going to use Oracle Fusion IDM? For user management. You can create the users and you can assign the roles to the users as per requirement. So for that we use Oracle Fusion IDM. If you assign IT Security Manager role to any user, that user will get access to Oracle Fusion IDM. The access page we call as Security Console. Okay. If you assign IT Security Manager role to any user, that user will get access to Security Console. Here Security Console is nothing but IDM, Oracle Identity Manager or OIM, Oracle Identity Manager. IDM or OIM, both are same. So IT Security Manager role will allow the user to have access to IDM application. The IDM application only we have a Security Console. By using the Security Console, what we can do? We can create the users. We can create the new users. Which user is working for which application, accordingly you can assign the roles. Okay. From Security Console, you can create the users. So to the users, you can assign the roles also. Means user management and role management can be done by from the IT Security Manager role. The IT Security Manager role allows us to manage the users and to manage the roles. So this is what we have to understand. When you get access to fresh instance, we have to create our own user. When you create our own user, we have to assign minimum these two roles. One is application implementation consultant. The second one is IT Security Manager. So any questions here, please?
Hi, sir. Who will take care this access controls from business user side and implementation side?
So only implementation consultant. Business user will come into the picture when we set up production instance ready. Okay. So if something is related to business user, I'll definitely include that point. Okay. Otherwise, everything you treat, that is our job, consultant job.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have to create implementation user and we have to assign these two roles so that we can start working as a consultant with full privileges with these two roles. Any questions, please?
These will be given by the IT team, or we need to create these users.
We create as a part of implementation. So we are the people who will have access to entire system. So
Apart from create implementation user, there is another user, right, sir? What is that, sir?
You refer the term called as IT team and all. That concept, that cases will come into the picture once implementation is done. Okay. Once implementation is done, client will start using the production instance. If any new user need to be created, they can have their own process. In some companies, if new user need to be created, that should be approved by so-and-so person. Finally, the user can be created in instance. But as a part of implementation, no approvals, nothing. Everything will create straightforward as a consultants. The other user, what I referred, employee user. Okay. Other user is employee user. The employees who are going to work on the instance, we have to create them as employee users. When you get access to fresh instance, we cannot create employee users. If you want to create employee users, we have to complete many setups. Once setups are ready, you can create employee users. Right? Now you can focus on implementation user. Just for your information purpose, I given this. So once we are ready with the basic setups, you can create employee user. We'll see how to create, how this implementation user is different from employee user, what you can do from implementation user, what you cannot do from implementation user. These all points would be very clear to us. Any questions here, please? No questions. Now we'll go and see how to create the implementation user, how to assign these two roles. Because of these two roles, the user is able to have access to FSM as well as security console or not, we'll verify. Okay, so we'll go and create implementation user. Okay, we'll go and create the implementation user. So go to instance. So here I'm going to log into the instance with one user. When it comes to your practice, you will get one default user and password. Will provide you the user and user credentials. With that, you can log in and create your own user. Now I'm going to connect to the instance with one user. The same way you will get user credentials for your practice. Log into the instance and create your own user by following the process what we are going to see now. So now I'm going to connect to one SaaS instance. Okay, here you can see in the URL SaaS, SaaS FA demo. Okay, here you can see as a dev. This you can treat as a dev instance also, or you can call as test instance. This is for training purpose. Here you can have a sample data, or you can call it as vision instance. Okay, so even there is a sample data, we are not going to use the sample data. In the real time, in the fresh instances, what process we follow, how we created all the setups, the same process we will see in this instance. We are not going to depend on any sample data. What approach we follow in the fresh instance, the same we are going to follow in our training classes. So I'm going to log into this instance with one user, so that is FinIMPL. So click on sign in. So I connected to this instance. Now what I want to do, I want to create my own user. You just think this user you got from your implementation team. You may get this user from the project manager, or you may get this user credentials from your client. When you are part of implementation project, you get this, any one of the user to connect to the instance. with that user, you can create your own user. Okay, definitely you will have access to security console. Whatever the user you get from Oracle side or your client side, you will have access to security console. If you have access to security console, you can create your own users. Think this user got access to security console, so you'll be able to create the user. We will understand very soon what is all these, what you could see in this page. Now no need to focus on those. Our target is user creation. How to create the user if you get access to any instance. So to create the user, you click on these bar icons. Okay, so this is a navigator icon. Place the cursor, it is showing the pop-up as a navigator. Just click on the bar icon. It will open the navigator panel. Within this navigator, you can see tools as a section. Expand tools. Just click on tools. Okay, just click on tools. Under tools, you can find one task called as security console. If you are able to see the security console here, that means you have to understand IT security manager role is assigned to this user. If IT security manager role is assigned to any user, that user only can get access to security console. Now click on security console task. So whatever you perform in the Fusion, that we call as a task. Okay, click on security console. So just ignore this message. Okay. Now here you can select user. And you can click on add user account. And here you can create the implementation user. And you can assign the roles like application implementation consultant and IT security manager. So that this is how you can log into the instance and you can go to user creation page and you can create the user. Okay, let me repeat this process once again. Okay, so this is a cloud instance. Okay, this is a SaaS environment. Okay, we discussed the SaaS, PaaS, IaaS. So SaaS. So
hello, sir. By seeing this, you told that this is SaaS environment, no? Like, how can we, seeing the instance, how can we determine that it is SaaS instance or PaaS?
you can see the name here.
SaaS. Okay, sir.
Yeah. Sometimes you may not have a name within the URL. If Oracle is providing any instance, okay, without a SaaS or PaaS, you no need to worry about it. You know you are which client. You are a SaaS customer or PaaS customer, you know very well. Okay, so that is the reason you no need to worry about as a client. But as a consultant, you can ask the client which subscription they taken. So you will come to know. It's not mandatory all the time. Oracle has to specify that is SaaS or PaaS. Since this is a training instance, they include it as a SaaS. Now all the instances they may include, may not include. If they are not including, if you want them to include, yes, they can include. That's how it works.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, so provide login credentials and provide password. Click on sign in. So this you can say home page or landing page. Now what is our target? We want to create the user. To create the user, click on this navigator icon. You can see bars here. You can click on those bars icon. It will open the navigator. So if you want to create the user, you have to go to security console. The security console, you can find under tools. Just click on tools. The tools section will be expanded. And within the tools, what are the different tasks are available, you can see. Now select task called as security console. If you are not finding security console under tools, that means this FinIMPL user doesn't have access to IT security manager role. If the user has access to IT security manager role, then only you can see security console under tools section. Now we are able to see security console under tools. That means this FinIMPL user got access to IT security manager role. This is what you have to understand. That means we get user credentials from Oracle or from your client or from your project manager, for which user IT security manager role is already assigned. Otherwise, no use. Even if you get user where IT security manager role is not assigned, you cannot do anything. You cannot create your own user and you cannot do any setups. You cannot do anything. So note that point. Go to navigator, under tools, you can find security console. Click on security console task. Everything we call as a task here. So security console we call as one of the tasks. Ignore that message. You don't need to do anything. So select users. Here you can create the user. The user what we are using FinIMPL also created from this page only. Let's see how to create the new user. Just click on add user account. Here you can provide the username. Okay. So I'm going to create user as a Google. You can see first name, last name, email ID, username, password, confirm password. But here you can notice last name is mandatory. I'm just giving Google as a username. The same last name it is taking as a username. So in the initial classes, we'll use the name as a Google. Later we'll change the name and we'll do all the setups with a different company. By taking example, we are doing implementation for so-and-so client and we'll do all the setups. In the initial classes, I'm going to use the name as a Google. Okay, well, very few classes we follow this name. Later we'll go with some different name. Again, we'll create user and again we'll do the setups. Okay, so that it will be more clear for us. So last name I given Google, the same name it is copying as a username. Or else you can change the username. Okay, maybe who is working as a consultant, the person name may be different from username. So you can accept the same. If you want to provide email ID, you can provide, and you can provide the password. When you talk about password, you can see password policy here. Just place the cursor on this information icon, icon. So it talks about if you want to set the password for this user, you have to follow the policy which is defined in this instance. Password policy is very simple, at least 8 characters, 1 number. We can set password policy, how it is required. Okay, as per client requirement, we can set the password policy. We'll discuss those points also after some time. Now, as per this policy, provide password to this user. And confirm the same password. Now, if you click on save and close, your user would be ready. Notice one point, we are not assigning any roles to this user. If you don't assign any roles to this user can connect to the instance, but this user cannot perform any activities. Click on save and close.
Sir, here we are giving to the access to the company or a user?
Consultant.
I mean, to the person, right? I mean, that's the name is given like Google, so that's it.
Yes. Just I taken that name, or else
Okay.
take the consultant name. Yes, you can take the name like the consultant who is going to work for financials. You can create the name as a finance. Username is finance. That means the finance consultant will use this username. For HCM consultant, you can create one more user as a HCM. For PPM consultant, you can create as a PPM. Yeah. Now you can find out your user. Just think you are doing the implementation for Google. That is the reason you created a username as Google. That user can be used by consultant only. Find your user. Okay. Click on search. You can see the display name and the username. The user account is active. The user account is not locked. If user account is locked, you cannot log into this instance with this user. Okay. Now just sign out from this user, PIN-IMPL user. Now connect to this instance as a Google. We created Google as a just user, no permissions we given, no roles are assigned. That means this Google cannot perform anything in this instance. Now go to Navigator, go to Tools. Under Tools, there is no security console. If you assign IT security manager role to this Google user, this Google user can have access to security console. Okay, so this is what we have to notice. Nothing we assign to this user can perform nothing. Now connect to the instance as a PIN-IMPL.
Here you did not assign even application implementation consultant, no, sir?
Nothing we
When,
assign.
and you did not assign. What is the difference? Like here, if we did not assign IT security, we cannot see security console. Similarly, if we did not assign application implementation consultant, then what is the difference?
You cannot have access to FSM. I'll show you that. We will assign and I'll take you through how you can go to FSM.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So for the clients, when you're setting up the user, the roles that you set up for them, that is as per the client requirement?
As per the client requirement means, if the user is working for payables application, we assign payables roles to that user so that the user can work for payables application. If the user works for receivables application, we assign receivables roles. Those roles are different. This is what I'm saying. These are consultant related roles which are required to do the implementation. Once implementation is done, to use the application, which user need access to which application specific roles we have to assign to employee users.
Okay.
Yes.
So all the activities and accounts payable will come under that particular user role, right?
Correct.
And the SOD violation and all
One second. Setup should be done from application implementation consultant. That's what we call as implementation.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, consultant has to complete all the setups with the help of application implementation consultant role. So once implementation is done, they can start recording the transactions in any application. For which application, which employee need access, that we have to provide. For that, we have a application specific roles. These are implementation specific roles.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions from anyone, please? Okay. Fine. So now you can sign out from this user and you can connect to the instance with PIN-IMPL. Now go to security console. Click on navigator, go to tools, select task on security console. And go to users and find your user. Click on search. Now here you can go and assign the roles to this user. We'll see how to assign the roles. To assign the roles, you can click on the display name or username. And no roles are assigned to this user. You can notice here. Now click on edit. If you want to assign the roles to any existing user, click on edit. Now, what is the name we given and all you can see. And the user account is active. And the password will expire on this date. On this date, the password will get expired for this user automatically. So where you can set that how many days password need to be expired, etc. We can see all those. And if you want to assign the two roles, like application implementation consultant and IT security manager to this user, you have to click on add role. Just click on add role tab. And first you can assign application implementation consultant role. search for application. We discussed as an application implementation consultant. Okay, application implementation consultant. So in the system, what are the different roles are available when you search for application implementation? We'll go and see those. Okay, the application implementation. Just you type only application implementation. So within the instance, we have a different roles. Okay, so we are talking about application implementation consultant. Here the term is consultant. Like consultant, we have roles like application implementation manager, application implementation administrator. We have a different roles, but you have to use the consultant role. The consultant role only you can have a full privileges. Even the manager role or administrator role doesn't have a full privileges compared to consultant role. So here when we are going to assign the role called as application implementation consultant, don't type consultant, just type application implementation. Now here you can see the roles, application implementation administrator, and same role, 2 copies, application implementation consultant, 2 copies, application implementation manager, 2 copies. So you no need to assign administrator and manager. You can assign the role called as application implementation consultant, because consultant role will have full privileges to the system to perform any setups. So search for application implementation consultant role. Now you can see 2 copies are available. In some instances, they are showing 1 copy. In some instances, they display 2 copies. If you find 2 copies, you can choose any one of the role. Both are same. Inside of the role, you will have a same privileges. So application implementation consultant, the first role code is starting with ORA. You can notice this we call as code. ORA, ASM, application implementation consultant job. And here it is starting with ASM. You notice this. Role names are same, codes are different. Which role we have to assign to our user? Any role you can assign, the first one or second one. These 2 roles somebody copied in this instance. Okay, we can copy and you can modify the roles. We'll have one separate session on that. How to create the new roles, how to customize the roles, how to copy and edit the roles. We'll have one separate session going forward. Now we don't need to touch that. It will create confusion for us. So now I'm going to assign the role called as application implementation consultant. Select application implementation consultant role. Okay. So this application implementation consultant role, we are going to assign to our user. So when you select application implementation consultant with the same name, you have 2 copies, application implementation consultant, application implementation consultant copy. Somebody copied this role, the same system is displaying. So don't touch these copied roles. Okay, so you select this. In case of fresh instance, you don't see any copy roles. The fresh instance you can find is application implementation consultant role only, because that is a seeded role. The role Oracle is providing. What roles Oracle is providing, those we call as seeded roles. Okay, what we call seeded. This application implementation consultant and IT security manager, these 2 roles we call as seeded roles. Oracle provided roles or Oracle delivered roles, you can say, seeded roles. In the fresh instance, you can find the seeded roles, no other copied roles and all. You don't find. You copy, you can find additional roles. Otherwise, Oracle provided roles only you can find. So after finding the role, you can select it. Okay, click on that record so that the role can be selected. Now click on add role membership. Add role membership is nothing but assign this role to our user. Okay, assigning this role to our user we call as add role membership. Just click on add role membership. Okay, click on add role membership. This role system will assign to our user so that our user can have access to FSM. In the background, you can notice application implementation consultant role is assigned to that user. And we'll go and assign another role called as IT security manager also. Okay, IT security manager. So here also you can see two copies with the same name. Codes are different. IT security manager. Code is, it is starting with ORA, FND. It is starting with just FND without ORA. Which one we have to select? Anyone you can select. In some instances, they provide only one. If only one is available, you can select as is. If two are available, anyone you can select. Now select IT security manager and select the same role. Okay, and click on add role membership. The background, you can see that role also assigned. Now click on done. Okay, just click on done. Just wait for a moment. Now you can see the two roles are assigned to this user. Now click on save and close. The system will update as these roles are assigned to this user. Now click on done. Now if you log into the instance with user as a Google, you can have access to security console because we assigned IT security manager role to Google user, and you can have access to FSM, functional setup manager, because we assigned application implementation consultant role to this user. We'll go and verify from Google user, we are able to access to security console as well as FSM or not. Sign out from this user. Confirm sign out. And our username is Google and provide password. Click on sign in. Now first we'll go and verify the Google user is able to access to security console or not. Click on navigator. See, within the navigator, we have many sections. This all system is adding because of application implementation consultant role. So all we are able to see because of application implementation consultant role. Now anyway, go to tools. Here is the tools section, expand it. Under tools also see you have many tasks. In previous user, you can see very limited tasks, maybe 4 or 5. Now because of application implementation consultant, you are able to see many tasks under tools also. But because of IT security manager, you can get access to security console. You see, you have a security console under tools. That means the IT security manager role is assigned to this Google user. You can click on security console. You can navigate to security console page. If you want to create the new users, you can create. Go to users and say add user, and you can create the user. Okay, this is how you can verify the user got access to security console because of IT security manager or not. Also, we assigned application implementation consultant role to our Google user. We'll go and check whether this user is able to have access to FSM, functional setup manager or not. How to check? To verify the user is provisioned access to FSM or not, click on username. Okay, just click on username. It will open one panel. So within the panel, you can find the task called as, this is all we call as a task, TASK task. So you can click on task called as setup and maintenance. If you see setup and maintenance here, that means the application implementation consultant role is assigned. The application implementation consultant role is assigned to the user, then only you can see setup and maintenance, okay, in the navigator. Sorry, in this panel page. Okay, so click on setup and maintenance task. This will take us to FSM page. This will take us to FSM page. From FSM, what we can do? Okay, from FSM, function setup manager, we can do any application related setups. So now we are in the FSM page. Say you want to implement financials applications. Here you can select financials. Financials you can select. In financials, you want to implement general ledger application. Select general ledger. To implement general ledger application, what setups we have to do, you can see here. Here you can select all tasks. So these setups you have to complete to use the general ledger application. All are not required. We will discuss based on the scenarios we can. And if you want to implement payables application, select payables application here from FSM. This is the FSM page, functional setup manager. And here you can select required task means which setups you have to complete as minimum setups. If you want to see all the setups, you can select all tasks. So these are the all setups which you have to complete, including all the scenarios. And if you want to implement receivables application, here select receivables. And here you can see what setups we have to complete to use the receivables application. So if you want to implement fixed assets, select fixed assets application. These are the setups you have to complete so that you can record the transactions in the fixed assets application. So this is all about FSM, functional setup manager. From functional setup manager, you can perform the setups. If you want to get access to functional setup manager, we need application implementation consultant role. We assigned application implementation consultant role. So that is the reason we are able to have access to this FSM page. And here you are able to see different applications also. So this is what we have to understand about user creation. Any questions on this point, please?
Sir, here I would like to understand, I see 3 roles here. One person created the Google account, Google user. The Google user is giving access to the functional setup manager access. And one person used that access. I mean, in which role we are in 3 roles?
What 3 roles? Only 2 roles.
If we are giving access to that AP functional manager, AP.
No, forget about that. Forget about. We are not doing that. Now there is no scope. That's different. Once you do implementation, then only you can talk about all this. Okay. Forget about this. First, as a consultant, we have to do the setups. Once setups are ready, then you can assign any AP or AR related roles to employees. Now we are talking about consultant. What?
Okay. Consultant in which role we are in? We are in the role of creating the Google account, or we are in the role of creating the functional setup manager?
See, we are connecting to the instance as a Google, and we have access to application implementation consultant and IT security manager. Because of application implementation consultant role, we are able to access to FSM. Because of IT security manager, we are able to access to security console.
Okay.
What is your doubt?
I mean, at the time of setting the Google, we are not giving any access, right, sir? Those access, who will give those access? I mean, we can take that access. Someone will give the access to us.
We given access, right? We given access. We assign these 2 roles
To the consultant.
To consultant, not. We are consultant. We are creating our user.
Okay.
Okay. When you are working as a consultant in any project, you have to create user for yourself to work as a consultant.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. If you want to create user for yourself to work as a consultant, you have to log into the instance with some other user, right? That user you will get from Oracle or your project manager or client.
Understood, sir.
Yeah. So that is the point. Okay. So that user I taken the example as a FinIMPL. Think FinIMPL user is given by Oracle. Okay. With that you are logging to the instance. What is your desired username that you are creating? Since you are going to work as a consultant, So these two roles you have to assign to your user. From now, you can forget about that FinIMPL user which Oracle is providing. You can proceed with the implementation with this user. So this is what you have to understand. Any questions from anyone, please?
Hello, sir. Sir, how many roles we can assign to the
No
user
voice.
at a one time?
Could you please repeat?
So my question is, how many roles we can assign to the user at a one time?
Multiple roles. Now we assign two. If you want to assign
Yes, sir.
more than two, you can assign, but there should be a reason. You can assign multiple roles. There is no limit.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, fine. We'll see. We'll assign many roles, but there should be a reason why we are assigning. Okay. So
Before assigning these roles, do we need permissions from anyone to assign the roles?
no. We are consultants.
So we are free to assign whatever roles we need.
Exactly. Everything we have to decide.
Okay, sir.
No permissions from anyone. When we are working as a consultant, we will have a full authority to do anything in the system as a part of implementation. Fine. Now go to same user. So go to navigator, tools, under tools, go to security console. So go to users, find our user. Search. Now, so here you could see actions. If you want to log this user, you can log it. If you log the account, you cannot log into the instance with this user account. Okay. And reset password. At the time of user creation, we created password. If you want to change the password, you can click on reset password and select manually change the password. They can provide the new password. Okay, provide new password and confirm new password. Say reset password. So this is how you can change the password for any user. When you practice, please don't reset the password for the user what we are going to provide. And please don't log that user account also. Okay. So you create your own user and you can test locking and do just resetting the password. And we can delete the user also. So deleting user means it's not like permanent deletion from the instance. Deletion means from this page, the user will be deleted, and in the backend, the database, the username will remain. So only from this page, the username will get deleted. That's all. That means with that user, you cannot log into the instance and you cannot perform any setups or you cannot do any activities. So user will not be available from this page means with that user, you cannot connect to the instance, but user will remain in the database. So this is a point we have to understand. Deletion means not permanent deletion, deletion from this user accounts page. That's all.
That means in that virtual database, once if we create user, that is for permanent.
Permanent. Even if you delete, that will remain as this.
So what that virtual database, they are so big that it can any amount of users can be stored in that.
Yes. Yes.
Like the YouTube videos, many uploadings, and it remains. However, how much amount we upload, that remains in the virtual database, but they won't get overloaded.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Fine. If you want to compare one user with another user, okay, you can use this option. Okay, one user you can compare with another user. Between these two users, okay, what are the roles we have and all. If you want to copy this user, you can copy this user. When you copy, the roles will be copied and you may create one more user. So these are the different actions you can perform against this user. And when you
Hi.
please.
Hi, sir. Sorry to disturb you. Yeah, sorry to disturb you.
Is like, see, in EBS we have end date option, right? Like that, did it will work, or it
We
is
don't
different?
have end date concept in the Fusion. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Hope you remember, we don't have any delete option for user in EBS.
Correct, correct, correct.
Here they given delete and they are not giving option of giving end date. Okay, after certain
Then now we can.
point of time, if you don't want to allow that user to connect to the instance, lock the account.
Oh, just lock only. That's
Yeah,
similar to
just
end date.
lock it.
That's it.
Or permanently, if you want to remove that account to connect to the instance, you can delete it. But with that user, what are the transactions are created, what are the activities you perform, those all will remain with the same username with this, with a like reference.
Correct, correct. How about roles? How about roles like maybe in EBS same, like we can edit the responsibilities. Like how works like here roles? How we can do it? Same like we have any option we have here?
Now this IT security manager role, you can just compare with system administrator in EBS.
Yes, yes.
From system administrator only, you can create the users and you can assign the responsibilities, right?
Correct, correct.
Here, the IT security manager, if you compare with EBS, that is equal to system administrator responsibility. You'll come to know after a few classes, just once we start doing the setups, you can understand, and even I will explain.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse, sir. Now, suppose we have created a role, a consultant user, and we have assigned roles, and we have done some for some sort of.
1 second. We are not talking about creating the roles. Just we are talking about roles which Oracle is providing.
Sir, yeah, it was mistaken. We are creating users and we are assigning roles, and we have done some amount of applications, some amount of transactions, and after 1 month, you have deleted that user. And if after a few days, if you want to check what that user has done, can we see?
Yes, it will remain for every record which user created that record, which user updated the record, that information will remain. Okay.
But we cannot check, no, sir, how we can check it?
You cannot find that user from this user creation page, because user is that in that definition is no more is available as user, but whatever the activities that user is performed, that stamping would remain as this.
That in the virtual database, that they won't get deleted, they will be in the virtual database, hence we can see all that.
Correct, correct. That would be there in the database, that username and all will be there, but from this page you cannot access.
Okay, only in the front end it gets deleted.
Correct. Right. So that's how it works. Okay. So click on this username. Just click on this username. At the time of user creation, we given just last name and same name system is taking as a username. And if you want to set some policy at the time of user creation, the user login should be mail ID, or else it has to take the username as a first name and last name. Those are all policies you can create. So that we'll see in the tomorrow session. Okay, we have to create separate setup so that will support, and you can set the password policy and sending the notification for users before how many days the password is going to be expired. So those all we'll discuss in the tomorrow session, and we'll see how we can set up an instance. It's almost 9:30. So tomorrow session we'll go through all those points, and you can just try to complete this task called as creating your own user and assigning these roles, and verify your user is able to have access to FSM and to security console or not. So we're done for today. If you have any questions, you can stay back. We will discuss. If no questions, we'll connect tomorrow same time. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Any questions, please?
Thank you, sir.
So if want to try this, how to create the users, so there is a particular URL code, or we will take the subscription from the Oracle.
Sorry, I didn't understand. What is your question?
Sir, if I want to try this application, so what is there any specific URL code to try this app, or we will get the subscription or download this app?
Oh, it's
Vision.
all app and all you cannot download. For these instances, rack servers are required. We have to take the subscription from Oracle. As a part of this training, you will get that instance from our side.
Okay, sir.
You can talk to the team. They will help you to get the instance.
Okay, sir.
Please. Any other questions from anyone, please?
Yeah, hi sir. One thing. Yesterday, as we discussed, actually my client has to you want to go for EBA, upgrade Fusion. So they're asking, they want to move without HRMS. Is there any provision without HRMS we can move other things?
Yes, possible.
Without HRMS means like without employee, how
Yeah,
things will work?
one second.
Yeah.
So without HRMS, that means they'll implement, say you have SCM, you have finance, everything will implement in the Fusion. And that EBS, HRMS or HCM, you can integrate with the Fusion.
Okay.
So that in the EBS, HRMS, whatever the employee data you have, that will flow to Fusion. That's all.
Okay, so we can integrate EBS with the Fusion. Okay,
yes.
No need to. Okay.
Yes, you can integrate. You can integrate any application with the Fusion, not only EBS. Any application.
Yeah, that other integration I know, but this thing without moving.
Yes, you can do that.
Okay, I thought maybe any pause.
One second. Don't think integration means just to flow the data from EBS to Fusion, whatever the data is required. I'm not talking about you integrate EBS and everything will come to Fusion. No.
Okay.
There
is a condition.
You need employees information.
Means like see, but to perform the transactions and all like in
that you cannot do.
But
okay, with that you cannot do, like only employees information. If you want to get, you can get it, or else you are going to record the transactions in EBS, the data you want to get into payables, and you can integrate EBS payables to Fusion payables. What is the great advantage if you get by integrating? Instead of integrating, you use payables only, Fusion payables directly.
But to perform any action, we need user, sir. Without employee access, how they can perform any transactions like purchasings or receivables or something? How they can do without
you
employee?
Have two options. Like, one second. You have two options. One is you can create the employees in Fusion even if you are not implementing HCM, because without employee you cannot record the transactions in the applications. That is the reason.
Correct.
Even if you are not implementing, Oracle is allowing you to create your employees information within the Fusion, but they don't allow you to run the payrolls and employee related other activities since you are not implementing HCM.
Correct.
Yeah?
So okay.
Or else get employees information from EBS to Fusion through integration, the basic employee information, and you are not allowed to use HR application or payroll or other applications which falls under HCM. That's all.
Okay, so without payroll, we in the Fusion we can able to
payrolls
perform
and
the
all
transaction by creating
in our EBS. Other
EBS, correct.
Yeah,
correct.
You just deploy the employees in our organization, run the payrolls, you take care of the absence, talent, and time card, etc. Everything in maybe in your EBS or ABC application. Okay. Employees information in the Fusion, since you are using the Fusion for SCM, finance, and other applications. So you are provisioning the access from EBS to Fusion. If you don't provision the access, you have to create once again same employees in the Fusion.
Okay.
Yeah, but you cannot perform any employee related transactions, activities as a part of Fusion HCM because you are not taking the Fusion HCM subscription.
No, yeah, that I can understand. Sir.
Yes.
Thank you for this. You can create employees in the fusion, and the AME also will work, correct?
Yes, it will work in the AME also, approvals. Here AME,
As employer, please, sir, please.
BPM we call. AME means BPM.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, BPM, yeah, business process management. Yes, sir, correct, sir, correct. So through BPM or employee hierarchy, so both will work
Everything will
in the
work. You are
fusion.
creating employee. You are creating employments with the employee. What
Yeah.
you can do doesn't matter. You implemented HCM or not. So wherever employee used in the business process, other than HCM applications, that you can use.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, no issues. Any other questions from anyone, please? Seems to no questions. If no questions, that's all for today. We'll connect tomorrow same time. Thank you all.